What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we got Jonah Hodges in the house. He's done over 25 million in sales selling on Amazon. He was a pro football player as well. So we're going to be picking his brain all about wholesale, his background, and probably suspension, all that good stuff. So what's going on, man? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. What's going on, boys? Glad to be here. I met John in person at the conference. I knew he was a super cool dude just off the bat. So I was like, whenever you want a podcast, bro, I'm down.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, sweet. So give us a little bit of the background. Like, what's your kind of intro story to how you got here?
Yeah, for sure. So with Amazon specifically, I've been selling on and off on the platform since like 2010. Literally going back all the way to high school, I was underage and it was my mom's account. I've actually heard this from a number of guys now, especially because there's so many teens in the space. But back then, for me, it was just a side hustle sort of deal. It was always like my focus was playing in the NFL. I wanted to play professional football. That was what all my mental stimulation went to and all my time. But because of that, you can't really have a job. So whenever I wanted like some cash, I'd just flip stuff on Amazon. So it started out just used stuff around my house, used textbooks like a lot of people. And back then, like used iPhones was my niche. So I would just like sell all the used products I could. And even before then, I didn't know what arbitrage was, but I realized that's what I was doing because I would go on Craigslist, look up everyone in the area. I'd buy their used iPhones, I'd buy their used textbooks, and I'd sell them on Amazon. And I literally did that for probably 8 years, just on and off. And it wasn't until, I got the chance to play football, ended up getting there. I got cut relatively quickly and bounced around a few leagues and realized, the sports thing wasn't going to be forever. I got to figure out my next move. But I didn't really have that like entrepreneurial mindset, or else at least I didn't think I did. So I started applying for jobs. I have my college degree, quickly realized, how brutal it is. Like when you are actually in the field applying for jobs and you think you deserve so much more than what you're actually getting. And that was literally me. So part of it for me, why I think it stuck and ended up working was because I just did not see myself in an office ever. And especially not for like 50 grand a year, So did my own side hustle thing continuously. After playing football, it was like 2019. And it was literally just perfect timing. I had the experience with Amazon. And one of my best friends growing up was like starting his own distribution company. And so I was helping him out, just push this one brand we had. So we started out literally kind of like sales reps for this brand. And from there, it's like 2019. I'm selling still like used stuff on Amazon. And then for this brand we were working with, I started selling their used stuff on Amazon. And rolling into 2020, it was just like perfect timing, opportunity. Obviously, COVID hits. Nobody's buying anything except for Amazon. Amazon's continuously making sales. And I kind of reached out to my buddy. I was like, let's start listing more stuff online. Let's start trying to pick up more brands online. And so we slowly added another brand, and the Amazon thing eventually took off. It was our biggest channel by far, and it has been since. And up until now, since then, since 2020, I've been working directly with distributors, brands, retailers, and basically helping anybody sell on Amazon. And from that, I realized, the best way as a third-party seller is either you're the brand themselves or you work directly with the brand. And from that, I started doubling down on that model, got another partner, and from that just kind of snowballed. And that's what I'm up to today. So brand direct wholesale, we mentioned it for a second, but we got shut down last year. So our account was deactivated fully, bought like $5,000 worth of product from this distributor. We didn't vet the guy at all. And literally at this point, our account had like just hit $1 million a month in revenue. So like we're not a small operation, but a lot of the things we were doing were still small-minded. Like we're chasing those quick flips and everything like that, and just didn't vet this guy at all. So we run into an issue. I don't know if it's real or not. It really doesn't matter because my distributor didn't have my back at all. So I run into this issue with Amazon and they're asking for invoice and LOA supply chain. My guy basically goes ghost. And for 6 months, it was just this rebuilding process. And realization for me is like, I can't even risk my brand direct accounts. Like, why am I doing this quick flip stuff? I'm trying to build a business here. And since then, it's just been basically brand direct has been my focus.
Yeah, well, there's so much to get into there. Talk a bit about, I want to hear like the psychological thing there where it's like, why did you continue to go and you didn't just like, we just lost everything. Like, I'm out of here. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah, I think I had too much proof of concept at that point. So by then I was already probably like 60, 70% working with brands, and then like 20, 30, 30, 40% working with distributors. So that was for me, I didn't want to quit because I knew I was onto something, but it was like, bro, what are you doing? Like on this one account that gets shut down, I have brand directs that are doing 6 figures in revenue, and I'm like mixing that with these distributors who my VA found. So it was more like I just needed to take a step back and readjust rather than just completely quit.
Yeah. And you have a partner, you said?
Yeah. So I have 2 partners. I actually have 3 partners. A couple of the guys I've literally grown up with since high school. And so one of those partners, what I mentioned earlier, basically started a distribution company, and then I became like their e-commerce guy. So that's one big misconception I think with a lot of sellers have, is they reach out to these companies and they hear, sorry, no more Amazon sellers or whatever it is. It's not like they don't want Amazon. The reason is they probably have their guy already, or their 5 guys that are their e-com sellers, So for me, it was the reality I have to actually increase their business in order for them to add me as another seller. And that came with creating new listings, fixing up their listings, and running advertising, which I realized like no wholesaler was doing at that point. I started venturing off. It was almost more like an Amazon agency. But the difference is I buy product in bulk. Like we have a warehouse, I buy in bulk. I don't charge any retainer fee. And I realized that was a good way of going about it, because for the brand, it's just like a no-brainer. I'm buying in bulk up front. I'm actually trying to increase your sales rather than the next guy who's just buying and flipping. So whenever I talk to brands and suppliers now, that's kind of been my angle. It's like, yeah, I'm not just another reseller. I'm going to get you in the brand registry program. I'm going to create this new listing for you guys, and actually just trying to add value to partners.
Yeah, interesting. I've never really heard of somebody put it like that. I don't think of like, yeah, you are kind of acting as an agency rather than like a reseller, typically. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Do you go after only new brands? Like, is there a specific thing you kind of go after there?
So my niche is like sporting goods. I'm specifically like outdoor recreation, cycling, supplement products. So that's what I go after. In terms of like size, when I talk about like brand directs or me launching a new bundle, like I'm not launching it for Dove soap or even, the biggest nutrition brands. I kind of target those 30 to 100K per month brands. And it might sound super big, but as you guys know, in terms of Amazon, that's like nothing. So if I could get a partner that's doing 30K in revenue, I truly believe like if they have one image on their listing and they only have a couple of their products actually listed, that I can add value and grow another 20K. So to me, that's been able to add that to partners, and then they see, oh, this guy's actually helping us out. So we want to only work exclusively with this guy.
Go ahead, John, if you have anything.
Yeah. So I have like 2 questions. So for, I guess, the one for the distributor, that kind of like screwed you over? Kind of because a lot of people are probably asking, like, how would you vet them? Like, what was missed? And kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I could list a number of red flags for suppliers. So, first red flag is they're in a Telegram group, or you find them on an Instagram sponsored ad. Like, those are not the wholesalers or distributors you really want to work with. And that ended up being, after I dug into my guy, he was the guy in the Telegram groups, and he was the guy where you search his business and there's nothing on Google Maps, which is another red flag. So, if they don't have a Google business, how credible are they? And then for this guy specifically, he was not US based. He was not like an American. So you have to be careful when you're sourcing product as well from other countries and stuff like that. Because yes, there's plenty of suppliers foreign, but with Amazon, it does end up raising another red flag. So foreign suppliers, no Google address, no, the website's horrible, all these things like my guy was just checking the box on. And me as the seller, where I dropped the ball is I was just outsourcing everything too early. And I see guys do it all the time. So what I was outsourcing was, okay, VA, you go find the supplier, you send these templates, you start work, because I like to hop in the process once it's already kind of rolling. This guy, he opened the account, he got the price sheet, he's going through. The time I first saw the supplier was when it was like, hey, can we approve this purchase order? So I look at the product, there's 10 third-party sellers on it, the brand's not on it. I'm like, okay, this is good. This looks like a winner. So that was the only really vetting I did, but I didn't do any type of vetting on who is this coming from, make sure he's legit. And that's like really where I dropped the ball. So too much outsourcing.
Yeah, and another thing on your outreach to get these type of people, you come off as the type of person that probably takes a more specific approach rather than like a shotgun approach. I'm just guessing. Instead of like you message 100 suppliers a day, you're probably trying to look at like what's the absolute best one I can get. Am I correct on that?
100%. Like the longer you're in it, I think that's one of the misconceptions. Like at this point, I don't do any outreach. I have my guys. I'm not cold calling anybody, but if I have somebody warm or my distributor refers somebody to work with me or another brand refers somebody to work with me, then I hop on the phone. And it is a very much more specific approach, like I had told you before. So like I know my niches that work well. I know the guys I've gotten results for. So if I'm talking to somebody now, like I don't talk to beauty brands. It's just like not in my niche at all. If somebody wanted to, if it looked perfect and it fell in my lap, I'd try to work with them, obviously. But like for what I'm doing now, it is a lot more of a dialed approach.
Yeah, it sounds like I think the common advice on social media probably with the wholesale guys is like, dude, just email 100 people a day or just call 100 people a day. It's like, I get it, but that seems so inefficient and exactly how you're going to quit. Instead of like, I'm going to become the best in this little niche and then I'm going to find out the perfect person I can help out in your type of way. So yeah, to me, that makes a lot more sense than the typical advice I heard slung around. Which we can get into that next. What do you think is different between, how you approach all this stuff than like the average wholesale guru guy?
Yeah, to be honest, I do think it's just the value approach. I think with Amazon sellers in general, we're all trying to make money 100%. But from the distributor wholesale perspective, when guys end up getting screwed over, it's like they found a supplier, the MOQ was 40 grand. Like I don't really work with anybody like that because the hardest part is like getting in the door and letting them say okay. If they don't say okay, sure, a big amount of money probably would open the door, but there's other ways of opening a supplier. And for me, I realized like rather than, okay, I'm going to profit 20% on this brand and I can only buy it once, like that just was not appealing for me at all. So leaving like the liquidation or closeout or one-time buys and really dialing in on like, I'm looking for suppliers I could buy from today and then next week and the week after that.
Interesting. Let's go back to the partner thing a little bit. I want to know, with 3 partners, that's seems like a lot. What kind of hurdles do you face there? And like, what are your tasks split up with? Like, or do you doing the majority of whatever,
For sure. So little background, I don't want to go too deep into it. I do have multiple accounts. So depending on who I'm working with, like, it might be a partner in one account and we're 50-50 in this, so like one of my accounts specifically is a retail store. The retail store owner, they have the brick and mortar location, which we all know is like a huge upside if you're working with brands or distributors. Had name brand products. They weren't selling anything online at all. So like for me there, and I talked to a lot of guys. I truly think the local suppliers, distributors, retailers, brands, you have your best bet approaching them first. Because think about it. If you walk into the distributor down the street and ask them to place $5,000 order, that's a lot different than the emailing them that they get hundreds of emails all the time. So like for me personally, one of them is that local retail store I have. And then with my partners, that how it works is I manage a lot of our employees and team in the Seller Central and the PPC and the optimization, like the nitty gritty Amazon stuff is what I do. Another one of our guys is like our warehouse manager of sorts. So we actually had another manager, but he quit. That's been like a whole thing in itself, is like managing a warehouse and growing it from this start is not necessarily fun. There's a ton of headaches. It's not for everybody, but for us, we knew with our model specifically, like the power of having a warehouse. So one of the guys does manage that for the most part, have like 5 preppers and shippers that are in there Monday through Friday. So he just oversees them and does a lot of the back end stuff. And then other guys, they're doing a lot more like account management, finding brands. So like if I'll pull a list of leads, and I've called plenty of leads over time, but we just see like my partner is the one who should be talking with brands. I should be the one fulfilling the brands. It just works better that way. So what we do now is like we'd use Smart Scout, pull a list, very specific list, like what Drew said earlier. Like I'm not pulling hundreds and hundreds of leads, but I might pull a list of 10 partners that look really solid, and I'll pass them to a distributor partner of mine who then goes and tries to open the account. So for me, it's like I can now leverage the distributor, I can leverage my retail store, and I have a lot of like inbound coming towards me to where I just focus on like the VAs and the team, and now content, trying to push more content.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so cool, man, when we talk to like all these different people on this pod, and some people are just like business owners, and then some people are just resellers. And it's so much different when you hear like you're not a reseller, you're like a business owner. Like you have all these employees, you have all these systems, you like look at things differently. I think I think a lot of people can get stuck in the reseller type thing. So can you talk a little bit about that, of like how because you started a side hustle, iPhones and stuff. That's the most reselling it gets, right? So like, how did you transition to like, well, I'm not kind of this anymore. I'm like I own this big company now.
Yeah, it is a learning process throughout it, especially like a lot of us, we've just known athletes, especially like we're grinding, we're fine with grinding, putting in the work. And like that's all good, I'm all for the hustle culture, but after a while it's like the grinding is not what gets you to the next level. So understanding like you have to unlearn some things, but then also why are you getting into the space? So are you getting into the space to make $1,000? You for sure should just resell products and walk into your local Targets and whatnot. You should not start with wholesale. If your goal is, you see, exactly what I see, which Amazon is not going anywhere to last as long as possible on the platform. You have to own the brand or get closer to the brand if you want to last, longevity. So with that being said, you're going to want to eventually transition from reseller to partner, somebody who can add value. Like I have no knock towards the resellers at all. If that's what you want to do and your goal is to make $500 a month, like stick with doing RA or stick with doing OA. If your goal is to not have to source one day, maybe you should do wholesale or own a brand, because, my one gripe is with arbitrage, constantly hunting. With what we're doing now, like we definitely hunt, but then when you get that kill and you fulfill, like ideally it's somebody that lasts longer than a couple flips.
Yep, 100%. I have a thought on something you said there. So I quit Amazon last, October, November, around that time. And my thought process was looking out and seeing that it looks like Amazon is trying to become a Shopify style platform, something that's like a brand owner centric thing. Like they want to be the place you host your brand. And I think that is the scariest thing for the arbitrage type people, because the worst thing for the brand is these arbitrage guys clogging the listings, changing the listings, shipping fake shit, stuff like that. So I guess, are you on that like kind of line of thought of like, is that where Amazon's going to go, is like this brand centric platform?
100%. I mean, one of the things that I'm doing different than a lot of resellers too is with the brand registry program. So Amazon has a brand registry program. Every single brand basically should be in that program. It's just more protection for you. No fakes will happen. The resellers end up dying off. So like that's been one of my pitches to brands that have dealt with, 40 sellers on their listing and don't know what to do. So brand registry and transparency program. It's a program now where you can put very specific labels on the product. Whenever it's sold, Amazon's like verifying the product. And so I actually got a brand into that. And I believe like as a reseller, you know, you're not going to do this with Nike, Puma, Adidas, but you do come across brands, Arbitrage, like you come across those brands where you never heard of them before. The listing might not look that good. You go to the brand's website, like reach out direct, get their sales at email and ask them for a wholesale catalog or pricing. Tell them how much you've spent with them over the last year and see if you can figure out some sort of new relationship. So in terms of as a reseller, I think you either do what you're doing and just fully transition because you see like Amazon's great platform to get into business and entrepreneurship, 100%. But it's not necessarily like the easiest or best business to scale, right? We're spending all this money. You can only grow if you spend more money. Like there's a lot of downsides. So it's either figure it out and that's your hustle forever. Maybe you just always do OA. You always buy those certain buys, but you never really grow. Or you transition to say, okay, I need to launch my own brand on Amazon, or I need to lock down this brand and start doing the brand direct deal.
Yep. I think it is probably the key to longevity in the future. People don't talk about that enough, but like what you're saying, now talking to you, it just affirms it even more. It's like that's obviously, if you can get brands into this program, they're like, yeah, I would love to do that. Like there's all these people on our listings. That does seem to be the problem. And it hurts the brands because if they have 40 resellers on there, you know, 3 people are shipping fake stuff, that could kill the reviews, kill all that kind of stuff. Because most people probably don't know they're getting it from a third party, right? They think they're just buying it from the brand who sells it on Amazon. So yeah, I can see that being a big, big issue in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What else you got, John? I'm hogging up the questions here.
No,
I
a lot of people will ask probably like, how do you have multiple accounts? So you want to like go into that. How do you have multiple accounts? And then a second question on that: when you got suspended, did all the accounts go down or just the one?
Yeah, so there's a lot. I get this is probably like one of my most asked questions is like multiple accounts. If one gets shut down, do the others? I can only speak from my experience. So you guys do whatever you want. I'm just going to tell you how I've done it up to this point. Like I mentioned at the beginning, my first account was under my mom's name, and I was just sole proprietor, obviously at that point. And I switched it to an LLC. So I took her account, I switched it to my LLC, and there was no problem. And then what I did, because I was going deeper into the brand direct stuff and realized this is before I completely switched everything to that other account. I opened up a case with Amazon seller support and I said, hey, I'm looking to open another account. I just want to get it in writing with you guys. Is this okay? And I got this message back and it just said, you don't have to request anymore as long as you have a legitimate business need. So you need a different business bank account, business address, and a completely separate EIN. So when I did that, I just wanted to get it in writing. I was told from a mentor to get it in writing. So I got it in writing. When my account got shut down, that second account did not get shut down. And they're both in my name. So everyone said, you know, if one goes down, the IP addresses will link. Like I straight raw dog it every day, dude. I log into like 4 accounts. I don't use a VPN. I'm on the same Wi-Fi, same computer, because I truly believe like Amazon knows anyway. You know, like they most likely know if you're trying to like behind their back, have multiple accounts and all that. I just would rather try to play by the rules. And I do think having multiple accounts is okay if you have different business need. Now, with that being said, another one of my like accounts I have was the retail partner is not under my name. So if you do decide to go into seeking multiple accounts, when I did it, it was years ago. So it was completely different. But now I'd recommend having like a partner. You can put it under their name or, you know, your wife or whatever it is. But if you're going to go that route, be as clean as possible. And to be honest, I don't recommend it to like 95% of sellers.
What is the reason to do it in the first place?
I think security, number one, like seeing what happened to me. Our main account went down. Our backup account, we probably were doing like, you know, 30 or 40 grand a month at that point. And we just fully transitioned. Like basically everything on that first account that was the brand direct, like authorized stuff. We removed as much as we could because we got deactivated. So they're holding all our inventory, all our funds. I took back as much as I could, and it was a complete mess. And we literally had to like relabel stuff, and we shipped it right back out to this new account. So for me, it was like helped with the transition. But it's, yeah, headache, dude.
What about the goal of all of it? So like, what's your do you have like a big future of like what you want to get to with this type of the situation you have set up?
So we probably have 4 exclusive brands that like pretty decent brands, sell well, consistent every day. My goal is to lock down more exclusives, which is hard, especially capital intensive with certain partners. So finding like the best fit. Some guys, they'll give you a brand direct from the get-go, and they're not expecting a 50K, 250K PO. It's just like, okay, you've told me enough. I know you're legit. We'll just start out. We'll see how it goes. I think my goal is to lock down more exclusive where it's just like our ideal client. So the more we've sold on Amazon, and this goes for any business model on Amazon, like you end up selling everything at first because you don't know what sells well. And then you see your better products and you double down on those. You're like, maybe I should avoid the shoes category because there's too many returns, or maybe I should avoid beauty because all these complaints. I kind of had that one early, and for me, the long-term goal is just like locking down more exclusives. I'm not going to exit this business. I don't really plan on it, even though I know it potentially could happen. Like if you lock down exclusive contracts and all that, but this is more like the cash flow play for me. And then in terms of when I get bored, I'm going to talk about the business now, and I'm going to help others with the business. So like whenever I need that creative itch, I've learned to like let the boring business be boring and get your creative itch elsewhere.
So no plans of starting your own brand or trying to get equity in any of these companies?
We've talked the equity play with some brands just because at this point, one of our value adds, especially that's worked, is I'm spending my own dollars on advertising. So PPC, I'll recognize a brand, let's say they're doing 30, 40, 50K and it's all organic. To me, I know like somebody should be helping them with PPC. So just to get people to say yes, I was like, I'm going to spend $5,000 per month of my money on your brand. Like, is that good? Yes. Okay, let's do it. And as long as it's still profitable, like we have brands where we're spending up to that amount, and still profitable. It's going well. So I think the next play is either try to get equity with some of these brands or launch our own. Like I've looked into the whole, TikTok creators and pushing to Amazon. I'm testing it now with our exclusive brands. So we went through the process. We're hiring creators. We're going to just test it fully with somebody else's brand. And obviously, like if it blows up and I'm making another brand all this money, eventually I'm probably going to say like, I need to do this for myself. But with my network currently, it would be very specific to like a sporting goods product or something like that. Like I wouldn't just launch anything random. I'd try to launch within our niche.
It seems like you probably know so much about that and have all the infrastructure set up that it would be very hard to fail if you launched your own thing from the sounds of it. Like it's just the choice of when you want to do it. To me, because it seems like you really have an in-depth knowledge of all this stuff.
Just like a time, like there's only so much time you could put towards projects. And so right now, like I realized the brand direct exclusive route is obviously new and hot in this space right now with how Amazon's going, but I've been doing this for a minute now. So it makes me feel even more bullish, that I need to figure out how to make this complete system where, I can show somebody, this is what I'm doing. You can do this too. And it starts with one partner. Like you need to find one partner that says, yes, help us out.
For most of your brand direct, when you kind of say like exclusive, are most of the people on Amazon already? And then you like just help them do it better? Or are you taking people that just like have a Shopify store or whatever and like, I'll bring you on Amazon?
So we've done both. It's always better if they're on Amazon already and that organic traffic's already there. We've launched 2 brands from scratch. Both were kind of just like, whatever projects, but we're not giving up on it yet because like we have a new brand we're going to launch. And the only way I'll do this now is if there's a ton of demand on their D2C website. So if you tell me you're doing $1 million a year on your direct to consumer and there's demand for Amazon, but you haven't like jumped into that field yet, then I'm on board. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I can tell your product's already searched, or you're in, like, we're launching a brand right now. And they were in 1,000 Walmarts. So there's nothing on Amazon, but I'll take the risk because it was a super hot keyword specific to their product, and the brand's already in 1,000 Walmarts. So for certain products and brands, I will launch it, but that's not really the goal. Mine is like, find those brands that have one listing image. They have a 5-word title on Amazon. Tell them why they need to fix it, show them who I've done it for, and then try to land them.
It's awesome. Do you meet all these people in person, or you do these things online when you do these initial?
I'll Zoom, FaceTime, Zoom.
Well,
mainly.
You mentioned before Walmart. Do you guys sell on Walmart as well, or?
We sell like little to nothing now. I had an account like 3 years ago. I was drop shipping on there and my mind was blown. Like, you guys, I know you get hit up all the time. Those VAs who are like, let me drop ship for you, 2-step drop shipping, blah, blah, blah. After a while, I was like, fine, like Walmart, I don't care about that account at all. Like, let's go ahead and run it. So we did it for like 5 months and my mind was blown because we probably were profiting like 4 or 5K a month on Walmart, just drop shipping stuff. They were running it all for us. And then, we got popped after a while. So the Walmart account got shut down and we didn't sell on there for like a year. And now we're back and it's really just like little to nothing.
I want to hear more about this. So It was profitable.
Oh, it was profitable, dude. It was working. That was the only reason I let them fly. It's like I'm getting 50 DMs from these drop shipping guys and I didn't care about Walmart. So I was like, okay, you guys go ahead, do what you want. And what they were doing Walmart to Walmart drop shipping, which I literally don't know much about it at all. A lot of it was just food products, as you could probably assume. It was like food, grocery, but they had a running sheet. They'd show, every order line by line in Google. I'd go in there and check. And yeah, the last month before we got suspended, it was like $4,800 profit. And so to me, it's like, I was like, I will risk this all day. I don't even care about Walmart. Now,
how'd you pay them?
They'd take a commission. I forget what their commission was, but whatever percent of profit, which is also why I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'm not paying anything up front. I forget what they took, but they took a percent of profit.
So basically, they just wanted your account and your info, basically, and then they'd just do whatever.
Yeah, they ran it up for like 6 months, and then tracking numbers, something went wrong, deactivated Walmart.
Not bad, though. Yeah, you always hear that stuff is like a complete scam, but I mean, it does make sense. You probably run it for a little bit, especially making like almost $5,000 a month. That's crazy. Just from like a random VA DM.
I'm like the guy who low-key will respond to too many DMs, especially the ones where it's like, you're not going to be a student. You're not going to be someone I'm networking with, but like, whatever. I just respond 1-word reps back and forth. And some of the guys like get me interested enough. I have this one girl. I'll tell you about another side quest like this that I'm testing out. It's going well too. This lady DM me and she says she's a brand service VA. So she basically finds brands for you to sell on Amazon. And I'm like, okay, I'm not paying you anything. She's like, no, you pay me after you land the brand. And she brought me like 3 brands. I got on the phone with all of them. My partner got on the phone with all of them. We ended up not buying because the margin was like kind of thin, but it was legit. Like, I was talking to the brand. I confirmed it all. And so after that, I was like, okay, you can send me some more leads. And she sent me one. And actually, like 2 days ago, I recorded the whole call. I called the guy. I think we're going to land him. So brand's doing like 50K a month revenue. Hair something product, which is like not my niche, like I told you, but if something lands in my lap, like I'll take it. So that's been the new like VA kind of thing I'm looking into, is just like brand service VA. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, I
Wow.
guess moral of the story is reply to those DMs that look like spam.
Moral of the story: be more curious.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I just thought most of that stuff was spam. That's funny. You've had 2 good experiences with like spam DMs.
Well, I mean, I got deactivated, so I don't know how good, but it was profitable. We made money.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean that not bad. That's funny. You mentioned you have a coaching thing, right?
Yeah. So just like me, Corey, Kajua, a couple other guys, like I realized I like coaching. I like helping other people, but I'm sure you guys know too, the one-on-one is so intense. Like, and I
Yeah.
did the one-on-one for a while. I got good results. I got testimonials from the guys, and I was just like, coaching's cool, but I'm still very active in my Amazon thing. So I took like a year and a half off, didn't do anything real. I knew I wanted to always post content around Amazon though, and it's so much easier when you have something to push too, as you guys know. So I partnered up with Corey, and we've been just mentoring, networking along like with the wholesale space, and now so many people are interested in the brand direct that's been like my little niche in terms of helping guys. So got a couple guys that have landed brands, and I think with most sellers, what I would say is don't overthink the process or the conversation. Like our Amazon niche we are all in is so tight and so specific. Like some of the wording and verbiage, like you can't say these things to a brand. They don't know what an ASIN is. They don't know what a keep a chart is. So even just like understanding that you have a lot of knowledge and you have to portray it in a way to these brands that's very simple and it makes sense. And so had a couple guys get a win from that. And honestly, I think that's probably where I'll double down a lot more in the future.
Yeah, the one-on-one is brutal, man.
Yeah.
Bringing that up, me and John have talked about that so many times. It's like you do get the best results like that, but it's like at the cost of your sanity almost, especially if you're doing like multiple calls a week or anything like that. I thought it was like I could handle it. You know, you can handle like a lot of calls, but once you get on them, dude, it's brutal. The group is kind of the only way to do it.
Yeah, groups the move. For me too, I like mentally ends up taking space. So like you want your guys to win, you know, you want to see them accomplish, you want them to fulfill on what the product you sold them. But some guys, you know, there's hustlers out there and some guys it's just brain dead, bro. Like there's no point. I have guys that sign up or all that, and they're only interested in my brands I'm selling or my distributors. And it's like, bro, I could tell you every single brand I'm selling. Like, it wouldn't mean nothing to you. You're not going to contact them and open the account. So, like, some guys, it's just like, I think there's quick cash grabbers out there, you know, they just want it right now. So, understanding with Amazon, like, you're not going to profit 10K a month in 6 months, bro. It's very unlikely.
Yeah, I run a school group, and I actually just made a YouTube video about this today. And a bunch of people are kind of like dropping out this month. And I was like, it feels shitty because, like, you know, you put this product together, you put a lot of time, like, you know, you pull a lot of resources, ask a lot of favors for people to come on there. And I'm like, man, maybe the group just like isn't that good, and I'm like doing a bad job or whatever. Then I pull up in school, you can see like everyone's profile and like what they do. And like there's like 6 like mini courses in there. And out of the, I don't know, 10 people who are leaving, only one watched any videos. Everyone
Right.
else watched 0. It just said 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then you could read like the bio, and it was like, oh, I just started in, I don't know, June. Hopefully I'll have like a 6-figure business by at the end of the year. And it's just like, okay, like the group is fine. It's just like they came in with kind of like false expectations, just like from social media or whatever. But it still hurts at the end of the day. But seeing some of the other data on the back end helps a little bit.
I agree with you, dude. That's what's funny is when you see the back end and it's like, okay, you watched 1% of the content, dude. You went through 1% of the course, bro. Like you're not gonna make it. I'm sorry. So at that point, like when those guys drop out, it's fine. I especially like I don't know, when I first came into info, like I'm brand new in my head, I'm still brand new to social media and content and all that. So it was a learning process, like figuring out how to market your stuff and how to give value to people. And so, uh, yeah, just with that being said, it's like this whole scene is something where as long as we can put out good information and help guide as needed, guys will take it and do what they will with it.
Yeah. It feels great too. And you actually help somebody do it. You're like, this is the coolest thing ever. But I do like the success rate in this stuff is just so low. That's like the harsh reality too. It's like what percentage of people are going to win? So low. So it's like kind of out of your control. You can't have this 100% success thing. It's just literally not even possible, it's like that in all of life, obviously. Yeah. And you probably do that from sports too. It's like 99.9% of people don't go to the NFL. But like for some reason, when it comes to this stuff, it's like, well, I feel like everybody can do it, but they really probably can't.
It's honestly just content, when it looks so simple in content and people are showing you the product they bought and they profited this much. It's like, okay, like I think I can get into this. And then they get in and just get thrown into like the whirlwind of Amazon. Like in my experience, like the huge learning curve with Amazon, some guys never learn it, but if you can stick through 6 months and you have a job that's helping fund your thing, like those guys always make it. The like 19-year-old who has $5,000 and then they spend most of it on coaching and they have some left and then they're like, this is too much. Like you're not going to make it.
Yep. Well, then I want to talk a little bit about the football stuff. I was mean at the beginning, but you brought up so many good things in the intro. I was like, I'll wrap back around to it. So what position did you play?
I played running back.
Wow. Oh, nice. And you went to, I was looking it up. What college did you go to?
So after high school, I went to Cal Berkeley for 2 years. I played there. I redshirted 1 year and then redshirt freshman year. I played like a little bit. I wasn't getting the kind of playing time I wanted to. And for me, like I told you, I was like, I'm going to the NFL, bro. Like I'm not sitting on the sidelines. So I transferred to University of San Diego down south and had a really good career there. It went well. My junior year, I like broke my collarbone. I missed the whole year. Like first game versus San Diego State, I broke my collarbone. I was miserable. Then I was depressed for like a year. I'm still trying to go pro. Had a really good senior year, so kind of got back on the map a little bit and never got drafted. I ended up getting just invited out to Detroit Lions minicamp. So I flew out to Detroit, was literally there for like 2 weeks, got cut, didn't make the team. And then from that, I got hit up by a team in Canada. So there's a league in Canada, professional football. And I went up there and played for a couple months and ended up fracturing my ankle in a game versus Toronto Argonauts. And after that, this is like 2017-ish. Kind of thought career was done, was going to start figuring out the next move. And I got hit up on Facebook by this like guy from Japan. He's like, hey, we have a league in Japan. And I was like, I have no idea what league this is. I have nothing. But then I looked into it more, and there's like a couple guys I actually knew in the league, and I was referred, and they flew me out on a visit. I visited Japan. I loved it. I ended up signing with the team, and I lived in Tokyo for 2 years. So that was like the end of my career. I lived in Tokyo, played in the X League in Japan. And afterwards, like I'm getting married. Like I said, I knew something else had to be coming up next. So I just retired. I quit and came back home.
And how old are you?
I'm 30 now.
Sweet. Yeah, the reason I even brought that stuff up is because I found it interesting. I was like a basketball player when I was younger, and I wanted to go to the NBA until I realized I wasn't going to cross 6 foot tall, and that wasn't going to happen. But I noticed that all these guys would hold on to the sports thing for so long, and now I see guys right now at my age, like I've already started companies, quit companies, all this stuff, or just now getting out of the college thing, or just now trying to play overseas, and I'm like, man, you end up burning like a lot of time. And if it doesn't end up working out, you get stuck in this position of like, oh shit, what do I do next? I definitely don't want to work in an office like you said. It's hard to go from I'm a superstar on a football team to like, oh, I'm an accountant now or whatever. So how was your transition there of like, when did you know when to call it quits, or like was it hard to get out of that?
For me, transition was tough, bro, because unlike a lot of people, I did like mentally I was there, like in my head, I still would. And then I proved it because I ended up getting up there. But so because of that, I still had a chip on my shoulder, like, man, I want to play. I want to prove myself. So didn't make the NFL, still wanted to play, got my 2 years of playing in. So I got that itch, like, scratched for the most part. I think a lot of athletes never get that itch scratched. So they're always just like chasing this thing. Like And what I would say is like, you have to have, my plan B was, oh, I'm going to play in Canadian Football League. You know, like that's my plan B. NFL doesn't work. I'm going to go play there. I'd say for like any athlete, you should have some sort of background plan that has nothing to do with sports. So regardless if your thing works or not, like you have this whole business you're growing, because the athlete to business transition is something that I think it's happening more often. It's going to happen more often because like with business, it is such a mindset thing. Like there's just so much garbage you deal with every day. You're only dependent on yourself like 90% of the time. And I kind of just like realized, it clicked for me like, oh, business is a sport. Like that's how I look at it now. Business is a sport. I got my team, I got my salary cap. Where should I put this? Get the roster right. And if you can think of like business as a sport, so many more athletes will get into this quicker than just chasing that dream that maybe they don't even really want.
Yeah, it's probably just a lot of it's probably pressure from other people too. You know,
Yeah.
like, well, that's what you're supposed to do or whatever. How young did you know that you were like, oh, I can't make it to the NFL?
So I'm from a small town, Santa Cruz, California. Sports is like literally non-existent. Our football team is horrific. So like I was putting up really good numbers, but wasn't getting that much love at all. So when I went to Cal Berkeley, I was a preferred walk-on. I was one of those guys where like I had to send out my own film to everybody. I'm reaching out to all the colleges. I'm sending emails. So at that point, like I don't really know because I have no attention or anything. And then I get to college and I realize like, oh, I can play here. And so realizing like I could play here, I just need to get on the field. So a lot of guys won't do it. I just took a step back. I went to a smaller college than the one I was at. I wanted to get on the field. And once I got on the field, I was like, okay, I can perform here. Maybe the next level I still can. And I thought I stacked up well to a lot of guys. So I never felt like I didn't belong or anything like that. It's just a lot of it is timing, politics, opportunity. And I just, instead of having a chip on my shoulder, like I'm glad I found Amazon and entrepreneurship, because I would have been that pissed off guy who's just like working his 9 to 5. He thought he should have been something. And so I'm so glad I found like business, because I could still be who I want to be. I can make as much money as I want, you know? So yeah, dude, I think most people, like especially athletes and honestly just anybody looking for that next thing, it's like start it sooner and start it early, and it can just be a side little thing for you. And eventually when you get that proof of concept, it's about like just doubling down.
Yeah, I think there's something too, like what you said about the mental stuff. Like business is all this like mental warfare with yourself of like not quitting and not giving up and keeping going. And like when you play sports at like any type of a high level where you're going through all the cardio and the nervous moments and all this stuff, it's like, dude, life doesn't get much like more difficult in that moment than those type of things. So I think it is an easy transition. I thought about that like from back when I was in high school playing like on AAU teams and stuff. I'm like, this has got to be the hardest thing possible in my life. And then as I get into business, I'm like, well, these problems aren't that bad, because I could be, you know, sprinting for an hour and a half at a time, or having to like shoot some shot that is nerve wracking as fuck, like stuff like that. So I'm sure you got like that on hyperdrive as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like kind of what you just touched on. It's like stress tolerance. Like who can handle stress? Because some people get into this, especially the Amazon thing. Like how many hurdles, how many problems do you get thrown at? And just like stuff that makes absolute zero sense. Like you just have to, oh, actually you got to refresh the page here and then do this. Like if you can't deal with stress, you're not going to make it, whether it's high level sports or high level business.
Yeah, I'm sure it translated well, because I'm sure, especially you telling this story too, I'm sure you're like in constant stressful positions of like what is going to happen next. And those injuries too, I know that's like the worst possible thing ever to deal with, because then you think, am I ever going to recover? Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yep. What else you got, John?
Yeah, I mean, that's so cool that you kind of thought that way. And when I first kind of graduated high school or even college, it was like, you got to get a job, you got to get a job. And that was like kind of the path. And like the more and more I was actually just thinking about it today, and it was like, sometimes it's like my business is in like an interesting spot where I'm doing like OA still, but the influencer thing is really taking off for me. And I really enjoyed that a lot. So now I have like some other decisions to make, like kind of what happens next. But it was just kind of like a realization where it's just like, it seems so risky to like work for yourself. But when I like think back on what I know now, obviously, it's like when I was like back maybe like 10 years ago when I got my first job, like I was knowing what I know now is like you could have found a way to make 2 grand. Like whether it was just like flipping or doing something, but like I don't know, the world is just like, oh, you're gonna be a loser or like you're gonna miss out. And I just wish like I knew back then, like, or this space was kind of around. Because I definitely would have gave it a shot for like a year, and then like if it didn't work out, then pretty much
Yeah.
in the same situation. You just have a better story to tell, like on the interview.
That's the thing too. It's like if you're surrounded by people who have not done or gone where you want to go, it's really hard to like soak in advice from any of those people. Even if like people you love, like I love my family, but they're all educators. Like basically my whole family, they're teachers, principals, everything like that. So for me, I kind of got mentally shuffled down the road of like, I don't want to be a teacher. I'll be an athletic director. Like that's what I'm going to do when I finish. And it's just because I was in sports and I thought that was what was next. So I remember it was like beginning of 2020, my dad sat me down. I'm probably making like $1,000 a month, just doing my own side hustle, flipping thing. Still with my partner today, like me and him are figuring out this business thing. And my dad was like, we gotta figure out like full-time job. What's going on here? And I mean, this was probably like January. So January to June, it was a massive difference because by June, we're mid COVID. Business on Amazon can scale quickly if you have the capital or access to credit and stuff like that. So once I made like $3,000 in a month, I was like, okay, I'm never working for anyone again. I just made 3 grand online and like, I need to double down on this. And it was just like that eye-opening experience for me.
That's crazy you say that, man. Literally, the last podcast we recorded, I was telling John how hard it is when like everybody in real life you're surrounded with has no clue what to tell you, even though they all want to tell you stuff. And then you even meet people online. It's like, especially at your level, you're probably ahead of nearly everybody you meet. So like, where do you even get advice from? Like, where is the next step? And you kind of just got to like muster it up internally or hope you meet new people. And it's hard to just like listen to, because you want to listen to your family, you want to listen to your friends, but a lot of times they're just trying to give you advice that keeps you the safest. And that's like the worst thing possible for you.
Yeah. Like in terms of business stuff, like my partners have been great because I can bounce stuff off them. We're all in this together. People online, like the community I've built up by now, especially when it comes to Amazon stuff. Like if I have an issue, I'll run to the group and specific guys that I ask these questions for. But yeah, like when you're starting out, especially, and you don't have that, you're going to have to I like to find community of like-minded people. And people that have actually done what you want to do or have gone where you want to go. Like people get mad at me, even my family. I used to be like, I either want to like make it, I need to be up here, or I'm just gonna be homeless. Like I'm not making 40 grand and like absolutely miserable. I'd rather like be a beach bum, like live out by the beach and like figure it out. Because I knew like mentally, if I came with that mindset, and it's kind of the same thing I had with football, it's like I know I'd get somewhere close to where I'm trying to go,
Yeah, it's great. It's hard, man. I feel like some people don't relate to that. And probably when you say this to, which I don't know how, you probably have a good group of friends in person where you have these partners and stuff, but you talk to a normal person that's making, 50, 60 grand a year and you tell them that, they're probably like, you're a crazy asshole.
Yeah.
That's just like how do you even see the world like that?
Specific conversations for specific groups,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know too. Like I have hometown friends that I am deeply in business with, and I have hometown friends where we don't talk about money at all, because just different wavelengths. I'm not going to knock your hustle or I've done the try to lift everyone up thing before, some guys are going to make it, some guys aren't going to make it. So instead it's like, I'm just going to put content out into the world, and I've naturally attracted my circle.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that. You're talking about lifting the people around you up, and how that's actually one of the most dangerous things you can do, because it creates a horrible relationship. But do you have any good stories or insights to share there? Because I mean, you've made it. You've probably tried to do it with a lot of different people.
Yeah, I mean, I've more failures than success stories for sure. But like on the failure side of it, it's just that I think people don't understand the internet and online space until you get here. So like
Mm.
when my mindset before I was even on social media at all, when I first was starting Amazon, it's like 10 grand a month is the pinnacle. And that's why everyone like markets the 10, get to 10 grand a month, like it's the pinnacle. And then depending on the community and circle you're in online, like people literally, that's poor, dude. What are you doing? Literally poor. And so for me, it was just like mentally reframing my mindset around money and my goals too. Because if your goal is like a monetary number and then you get there, like you don't really have, it's not fulfilling at all. And then you realize there's still all this other business and you're getting kicked in the nuts every day. So like unlearning that I'm chasing like this high number goal and instead like also building it around my life. Like, am I enjoying my day to day? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? What stresses me out? So is it stressing me out because I know I need to do it and I'm procrastinating? Or is it I'm stressing me out because I'm wasting my time and it's time is finite.
Yeah, that's a really good point too about I feel like some people think they want to be lifted up, but then they really don't want to be lifted up. I mean, that's kind of how I got started when I was started books. I always remember it was Watch Me Amazon. I saw his like orange bars. I don't even know what they were at the time. He probably posted he did like $1 million in a month or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, like that's insane. Like I didn't know what it meant, but in my head, I was like, he's definitely not keeping all of it. But I'm like, damn, even if it was like 10%, like that's like 100 grand. Or like even 5%. Like I was making 40 grand. I was like, that's 50 grand. And that's what kind of got me going in my head. So most people look at that as probably like, oh, he's making $1 million. That's not the case. But like in my head, I was more just like, wow, if I could even make like 5% of that right now, like that would be amazing.
That was like my big gripe too when I first came to the scene, like money Twitter, like I stumbled upon money Twitter and I see all the guys, crushing it on the info side of things. And I'm just like, wait, this guy's like not even selling that much on Amazon. This guy's like, my numbers are way bigger. And then I had to realize like your numbers don't matter. It's how much results you can get people. So if that guy only did 10 grand a month on Amazon revenue, but he can help thousands of people get from 0 to 10 grand, like that's a successful business. He should keep doing what he's doing, So I mentally was like, oh my God, I got to come out and I got to launch something and start making some of this internet money. I'm already doing 6 figures on Amazon, but the skill sets do not correlate. Like what you're doing on Amazon does not correlate to you trying to launch a coaching offer and running the content around it and then fulfilling for the guys, like completely different. So it's definitely been a learning process throughout it all.
I think that's a great take because no one has that take. It's usually just like I don't think I've ever heard anyone be like, "Oh, like they're not even selling on Amazon." You're just like, they just have a better business model. Like if they could get people results, it doesn't matter whether you're selling on Amazon or not. Like I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I actually had that on my list for you. Like you've been selling for a while now, and you've probably been on Twitter for a while. How much do you think it's like changed? It for me, it's drastically different from when I first kind of started a
How
couple
much
years
has
ago.
Twitter changed? Is that what you're asking? Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, ton, dude. Like, I'm a lot of the guys aren't as active. I'm not as active. You can tell when people have their ghostwriter now writing for them compared to when they're just ripping like all day. But also, like, buyers are getting smarter, which is a good thing, So what worked 3 years ago, like guys were printing off info and Twitter specifically, but you could go and do the same thing now. You're not going to get anyone results. So like for me, it's been figuring out what I want to teach, like not today or like the hot trend, but like if I teach it in 5 years, it will still get somebody results.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it. Yeah, because if the skepticism is just going to always climb with more and more people getting online. More Twitter specifically. Twitter's like the worst place to do that because you have the most skepticism in the market. But if you look long term, of like, I'm not really teaching someone a specific thing. I'm teaching them like how to do how to think about how you're doing this stuff. It's just going to last way longer. Like you're not going to die out ever really if you do stuff like that.
One thing I'd like to get deeper into, and part of it is like I'm figuring out my own stuff going on, but like you guys have bought courses and mentorships, coaching, like the best ones always have some aspect of mindset to it because a lot of the principles we're teaching are so simple, but you need as a human to unlearn certain things or to learn certain things. So like, I don't know, I want to tap into more of that rather than like Amazon, in 10 years, maybe my content's not Amazon, it's just business stuff. And then principles that still apply to this business, but also if you launch a coaching offer or if you help a local retail business, whatever it is.
Yeah, man, I think you probably underestimate how much you know too, because you've said some stuff here that I'm just like caught of you saying. I didn't even try to bring it up because I know it's like a bit more complex, but some of this mindset stuff you talk about is like, pretty helpful and high level. When you just skim by it because it's just like you already think like that. But I think people hearing you talk about that stuff is a pretty big deal. Because I've just heard some stuff you said, and I'm like, man, that's like a great way to put that type of thing. And I think with your experience, it's probably how you got there, especially with the NFL and the football stuff and all that. You got the mindset of like, that's probably your most important asset, really.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. And also what I'd say too, like adding to that is anyone can develop their mindset. It's like, what are you consuming though too? Like, are you listening to podcasts like this? Or are you listening to, I don't even know what's out there anymore, but like there's so much garbage online that a lot of the times to be successful, you got to subtract, X, Y, and Z rather than I need to learn this new thing and that. It's like, bro, the stuff these creators are putting in their groups is the same stuff that we're putting in valuable free content to you guys. It's like less about all this new information. It's now, let me help you implement it. Or wait, no, forget that. That's wrong. Don't do that. Do this instead. So like small things like that from what I've learned, even buying stuff, like I've spent tens of thousands on coaching with Amazon and not even that, just like personal development or coaching stuff. And I see like similar tactics in each group that I want to take for myself. And one of them is just like, it's less about some secret hack and more about like, you need to man up and figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, dude, do you have anything for us? Any questions on the top of your mind?
Yeah. What are you guys up to, Drew? I know, Drew, you're on something new. What do you got
Yeah,
going?
trying to learn more about the info space and that type of thing. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do in the future, but, just trying to make that stuff work now. Learning marketing, learning that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard because it's not like it's a cut and dry type of thing. You got, do you suck or not? Kind of just got to test it until it works. But yeah, that's about it.
How about you, John?
Yeah, for me, I'm still doing OA, and then I'm just really doing a lot of influencer program. I'm really just learning a lot, like when you talked about mindset. It was just kind of like, it was really hard at first. And I bought a course, and when you buy a course, and the course I bought was great or whatever. And it was just really funny because a lot of the times they're just like, oh, you're going to get brand deals, and like people are going to send you stuff, and they're going to pay you to even review it. I'm like, none of this shit is happening. Like, I think these people are full of shit or whatever. But now it's starting to happen. And I'm like 8 months in, and it's like, oh, okay, like 3 months, like your videos suck. Like month 4 to 6, you're starting to like get a little momentum, like a little bit of brand action, and now it's really starting, like every day people are like reaching out, and it's becoming to be like a meaningful amount of money at this point. But it's just been really interesting to you kind of forget once you get to like a certain level in the Amazon business, like when you started, like it took you 3 hours to make a shipment, and you're just like so far removed from that. Like, I don't even know the last time I sent a shipment. Like, my prep center does all of it. So it's just helped me be able to help other beginners, just to be like, yo, like this is going to take like at least 6 to 12 months. But no one wants to hear that.
Totally. You guys both just touched on it there. It's like how many things, at least in our minds, like we want to lay it out perfectly, before we get out there and like crush it. But then you realize like to crush it, you have to suck first. So like, at least this has been like for me in content. It's like, okay, my content sucks, but now I'm putting it all out there. Now you make small little tweaks. And then mentally for me, like I'd rather be posting any content than a year ago when I was suffering from not posting anything, you know? So realizing like you're farther down the line than you were last year. And if you are, then like, and you're going towards your goal, then eventually if you are following a true blueprint and something that works, like you're going to find success.
Yeah. That's important too. You talk about like not laying it all out. Like there's just never going to be a perfect time with a perfect thing. Like that literally will never happen. And that's what everybody's waiting on. It's like when I get in this certain situation, that's when I'm going to take action on stuff. Well, that's what I'm going to do. It's like, no, dude, like yesterday was the best time. Today's a little bit better. Like you got to just do it now and you got to take the action now instead of just waiting for somebody to, you know what I think it is really? It's not waiting for a perfect time. It's waiting for permission. Like a lot of people are just waiting for someone else to tell them that it's okay to do something. I've noticed that throughout the coaching too. It's like, is this okay? I'm like, you know, that's okay. Or you just want me to tell you that it's okay, which I mean, everybody does that. It's like a human thing, but it's like, just stop. The only permission you need is from you, not like from random fucking people that you don't care about.
Yeah. And there's no rules with this game, you know, like there's no rules, there's no playbook that you have to follow specifically. So like for me, that's what I've learned. It's like, okay, you want to copy businesses that work to a certain degree, but you got to evolve somehow. You got to add your own twist. So like, don't be afraid of if that new twist for you is something you haven't seen before.
I do think that is a big part for me for the influencer thing as well, is like you look at what people are teaching and it is what it is. Like in the info space for the most part, it's like you're kind of like you're trying to teach what's best for the group. And sometimes you're not doing that because like you're like much further above. And like if you taught that, it doesn't make sense at that level. So I'm like starting to learn with the influencer program. It's like, well, like you can't wait for someone to be like, here's how to get a brand deal. Like you have to figure out how to get the brand deal. Because by the time someone's telling you how to get the brand deal, like it's no longer a good opportunity. So I think you really have to be on top of the ball. Like if you take, you know, if you're in your group, right, it's like you probably will teach them how to find accounts, but you're not going to hand them over accounts. And if you did, they wouldn't know what to do with it. But that's what they think they need. They think they need Jonah to hand them his best account so they could be successful. But in the grand scheme of things, they would fuck it up because they don't know how it was gotten, how to run it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just wouldn't last at all. It's like if you're building something that's going to last, you literally have to build that thing from scratch yourself sometimes.
Yep.
Sure.
Dude, any last words? We've been on here about an hour and 10 minutes. It's been great, man.
Oh, yeah. Solid talk, dude. This is one of the best pods I've done so far, just in terms of questions you guys threw and flowing. So I'm glad you guys had me, and let me know when it goes live.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for being here. Where could everyone follow you?
Yeah, just at Jonah Hodges on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. I got to start getting on YouTube, dude.
Oh, yeah, man. Definitely, for sure. Well, thanks for being here. Guys, go follow Jonah, and we will see you in the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace, peace.